Morning. Today we are going from Malawi to South Africa, and we are using a bus by the name Matuas, which is right behind me. It's a beautiful bus. I know I'm not so visible right now because it's dark. It's 3:30 a.m. Yeah, so it's a 24 hours journey. It's a continuous journey, and we are looking forward to be strengthened by the Lord to arrive safely and to enjoy the journey. Yeah, let me show you how the bus looks like. It has a carrier behind it that it is gonna be pulling. Yeah. After about 5 hours of being on the road, we arrived at Postal Fronteiriço Kalome, which is the immigration border between Malawi and Mozambique. In Mozambique, they speak Portuguese, and we were issued with immigration forms which were also written in Portuguese with no translation to English or any other language. So we had to find a way of filling the forms and just try to dissect what the questions meant, and we were successful, though there were some people outside the immigration office helping people to fill out the forms, but at a fee. So we tried our best to ensure that we were able to guess what the questions were asking. At this point, we were traversing one of the rural areas of Mozambique, and one of the interesting things that I noticed was that when it comes to farming, you see the way, for example, in Kenya or even in other places, when it comes to growing of crops, they're grown on straight line. In Mozambique, they're grown in a very curved manner. Like the lines that are dug are not straight, they're curved like a concave. For me, I found that to be very interesting and unique to Mozambique. Currently, we are at a place called Musagame in Mozambique. So, I have a story to tell. Gosh, actually this country called Mozambique is not friendly for tourists, and I'll talk about it a bit later. So, Musagame, where people are buying stuff. We have come here for a short break, and one of the surprising things is that we are at a petrol station where we've been brought to relieve ourselves, but there are no toilets. Imagine we're just going to the bush to relieve ourselves, and I'm like, oh, this is a bit, it's a bit weird. And I'm like, why would a whole petrol station not have even one toilet, you know? So as ladies and the men, we are going to the bush. For me, this is very new. But as a traveler, you just have to be very flexible and adjusting to the things that you find along the way, because one country is always different from the other one. When we got to the Malawi-Mozambique border called Kalome, the reception was not so kind. We met people who had very stern faces. However, it's something that we had been forewarned about Mozambique and also Angola, those countries that are Portuguese speaking or that were colonized by Portuguese. So now what happened, when we got to the immigration office, our passports were looking a bit different from the rest of the people. So my friend and I, our passports were this kind of blue that is very bright, but the rest had passports that were dark blue. So ours were very outstanding and attention seeking. So we were separated from the rest. The rest were asked to form one line. Then us, my friend and I, we were benched. We were asked to sit on a certain bench, and our passports were taken. So as we were seated on this bench, I was just looking around, enjoying, trying to analyze the place and everything. And I remember at that point, I felt the Holy Spirit ask me, why are you seated on that bench? Why are you seated on that bench? Think twice. So at that point, I was like, hey, maybe our passports could be having an issue, or as in they could be just having an issue with us. And I started praying in my heart. So finally, somebody called us outside and told us we were required to give money. And then I told the person, no, we don't have money. So ideally, it was like a bribe. And I told the person, we don't have money, we are Christians, So the guy was like, okay, you just go to that guy. So he pointed at a certain guy and told us to go and talk to him and tell him that we don't have money. So now, the guy that we were told to go and talk to, I think he had already been briefed about now what we told the guy. So when we went to him, he had this mean looking face, like really mean, not even okay, a combination of mean and being disgusted. Like I was like, Jesus, just help me, because this guy is just too disgusted with us. So I just went and told him, you know what, we're just traveling through, we are not even staying in Mozambique, as we don't know about this thing of tracking money, we don't have any money, so just kindly allow us to just proceed. So he listened, still looking at us in a very disgusted manner, but finally he told us to proceed and to make sure that the next time that we are passing through Mozambique, we carry money to pay. And I told him okay. So we left the office, and when we went to board the bus, we found an sort of like an army person in the vehicle, and we were surprised, like, what is he doing? So upon entry to the bus, he was taking everybody's passport, checking, and then he was asking for money. Because Joy was ahead of me, the guy asked Joy for her passport and then asked her for money, 50 rand. And I think at that point Joy was confused, because we didn't, like, we weren't expecting any person in our bus who was asking people for their passports, because ideally we had just come from the office and we had already given our passports. We had already been given a permit to being in Mozambique. So I think she was shocked, and she gave the person the 50 rand. And then when it was my turn, I wanted to resist, not to give the person or ask the person what is it for. And I just saw the way he looked at me, and he looked like someone who was ready to beat me in case I don't give the person the 50 rand. So I just gave the person the 50 rand, and I was like, Lord, this is beyond me. I have tried. This is beyond me. Because for me, that was a bribe. Why are we paying 50 rand? What for? So we just paid it, and I felt so bad. We didn't like Mozambique at all. Of all the countries that we've traversed through, Mozambique was the least country that we ever liked. And you know, we had already been briefed about Mozambique, that the fact that they're not welcoming to people who are foreigners or people who don't know how to speak Portuguese. They're not welcoming at all. So that happens in Mozambique and also in Angola. So we were like, okay, we didn't like Mozambique. And then they put a certain stickers on our passports, and they told everybody to ensure that they don't remove those stickers until they exit Mozambique. So we were like, okay. So apparently I still have that sticker on my passport, and up to today. And we were like, I think this can serve as a reminder of kind of things that we went through in Mozambique. But anyway, we thank God that we are able to traverse through. We got to see Zambezi River, which is the 4th largest river in Africa that flows into the Indian Ocean. So we were crossing the Zambezi River Bridge on our way to Tete. It was time to exit Mozambique and cross over to Zimbabwe, and we were so excited because Mozambique had not treated us kindly and the people are not welcoming at all. So we were so excited. I found Zimbabwe to be very fertile and very green, and the houses were constructed in a very developed manner, even in the rural setup, as compared to Mozambique. We spent the rest of the day and the entire night traversing through Zimbabwe because it's such a huge country.
ndiponso tikakhala tubwera pamene pali basi aliyese chikwama kumatenga kwama ikili ndi katundu timatomba ting'ono.
After 12 hours of being on the road, we arrived at Bridge border post between Zimbabwe and South Africa. It's such a good morning. We are at the Zimbabwe-South African border. We've traveled the whole night to get to this place. So right now we are going back to the bus to now start heading to South Africa. It's a good morning. I've realized that here it dawns by around 5. It's bright, like, you know, it's very, very bright. Yeah, I think it's I don't know whether it's 1 hour ahead of Kenya or yeah. At the immigration. Upon entry to Zimbabwe Immigration Office, we experienced a similar scenario to what we had experienced before, where people were being asked for money. And actually the people in the bus, because most of them were Malawians, they had been asked to put like 50 rand inside of their passport. So whenever they made a line and they were presenting it at the counter, they were just kind of being given an express entry because, you know, already they had put the money inside their passports. So when it came to us, we felt we didn't want to pay any money. We still didn't want to pay any money because we weren't understanding why are people paying money. We should just be given an entry into Zimbabwe without having to pay any money. So we stood firm and we said we didn't have money because we were asked to declare how much money we had. So we just declared that we had a certain amount of money in our cards, but we didn't have physical cash. So initially they were attempting to be kind of a bit resistant, but finally they served us and allowed us to go into Zimbabwe. So we had finally they allowed us to an entry into Zimbabwe. And then when it came to exiting Zimbabwe and going to South Africa, I must say we had an easy time. And if we are to rate one of the countries that we had an easy time, I mean entering into that country, it's South Africa and also Tanzania. So those countries never give us a hard time. We really had a good time. Yes, so we really thank God that we did not bribe, because can you imagine a whole bus, everybody giving 50 rand, and us, we didn't give any money. So we really thank God for just breaking through for us during the journey. Got to see River Limpopo, which is such a huge river that flows into the Indian Ocean and is shared by 3 countries, South Africa, Zimbabwe and Mozambique. These were the outskirts of South Africa, which were very different from any other country that we traversed through, because they were so developed. You could be able to see things like ranches and just many things here. Actually, there were so many ranches here and there. And one of the things I love about road trips, they enable you to see both the rural and the urban setup, because you're moving from border to border. I remember along the way, there's a certain place where we stood for a long while because there was a police check, and apparently there were a number of Malawians who had overstayed in South Africa. So that was an issue with the police, and it took us almost around 1 hour to get going to South Africa. For me, I felt that was very inconveniencing, and whoa, anyway, we can't control some of these things, but anyway, we thank God that the journey continued. after 40 hours of being on the road, we arrived in South Africa. So it took us 40 hours from Malawi to South Africa. And this was the most tiring part of the journey. The Matua's bus was really good, but the seats are not designed for such long distance. But the management was good. The seats were good, but they were not as comfortable for such a long distance. And I remember we were sitting in all manner of positions because it was exhausting. It was tiring. But anyway, it was an adventure, and we thank God that we arrived safe and sound. We were staying at the La Orchids Hotel in Orange Grove, which was a very beautiful hotel, peaceful, and the most important thing, it was at a secure place. So it was really good. And I think the only thing we didn't like about this hotel is that they wouldn't change our bed sheets like every day, even after we told them to. So we hope this is something they can really work on. But something good about them is that despite the fact that South Africa experiences load shedding, we did not experience that beat, and it was really good. So we thank God. Taking you to the room where we spent the night. It was really a good room. Initially, we didn't have like hot water, and some things here and there weren't okay, like we weren't knowing how to operate the sink. The window had been left open, and therefore, because it had rained, rainfall had seeped into the washroom. However, they looked into everything and tried to really make us comfortable. We arrived yesterday here in South Africa. We are from the hotel where we are sleeping, and right now we are going for rounds within CBD to have fun. We are excited. Visit the Mandela Square, which is next to the Sandton City shopping center that has about 400 stores, making it one of the largest shopping centers in the continent. It's also next to Michelangelo Towers. There are also so many eating places, nice places just for fine dining.
We are in Sandton City with my great joy, and here is the library. So we came to see the Nelson Mandela Square. I love South Africa. We love South Africa.
Initially, the square was called Sandton City Square, but later it was named after Nelson Mandela, the anti-apartheid activist, just to recognize him. Ban on say now I didn't ban on see or if Gabbard is what it can say and Turkey.
Let us live and strive for freedom. Sandton City. We are taking a street walk because we gotta know this town. Yeah. Today is a new day. We are walking from the hotel where we are staying, going to visit Nelson Mandela House. Yes, today we've come out a bit late in the afternoon. Yeah, but we're still hoping to have fun. Yay!
Point the weather changed and it started raining heavily, so we decided to use an Uber because we were like, we just gotta go an adventure. The rain ain't gonna stop us. We went all the way to Soweto to see where Nelson Mandela used to live, his first house. And there's just so much to learn from this place. So much history about Nelson Mandela and his family, his ambitions, the kind of a man that he was. At the Mandela House, visitors are not allowed to take videos to avoid diluting the history that has been collected over the years. However, you can take as many pictures as possible. One of my favorite quotes from Nelson Mandela is, "No one is born hating another person because of their skin color, background, or religion. That people learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, then they can be taught to love, because love comes naturally to the human heart." So for me, I just love peace. Peace, peace everywhere. With my friends, with my family. I love peace. I'm a peace ambassador.
It's the end of dawn, just starting. All your problems never stop talking. Nah. Koala plenty. You wake up today, you dey breathe. Count your blessings, make you see. Fire, chere, kuze, kuze, mana, eji, dime. Fire, chere, live life today. I am my day.
We hopped on an Uber after visiting Mandela House and we went straight into Joburg town. But along the way, we were able to see China Square, China Mall. So even here in South Africa, they have such, just like what we have in Kenya. One of the things I loved about the Uber rides is that the drivers would, share so much about South Africa, even places to visit. They would ask us, have you gone to this place, this place? So I really loved that because we learned so much about the history of South Africa. And also they would still caution us about the security situation. So it was really good. So I'm here jogging in South Africa. It got to a point where I felt I was really, really tired. My body needed exercise. So I told my friend Joy, and she was like, why don't you go out and run? So here I am, running along Louis Botha Street. We've been eating so much junk food. There's no healthy food here. Like, there are no cereals. So I just had to do something. My body was so tired. I'm used to jogging and exercising. So here I am, doing what I love. Woo! finally made it. I managed to run for 30 minutes and I feel so good. I hate it when my body is sluggish, I'm feeling lazy. So because jogging helps me to feel very active, it energizes me so much, and because I'm here in South Africa, I just need all the energy to do each and everything that I'd love to do or we'd love to do. So I thank God for just giving me a chance and protecting me as I was doing it, because I was the only one, and I doubt it's something that people do around here. Yeah, because of just the way people are looking at me. But anyway, I loved it. We are still in Joburg, and right now we have boarded the red bus. We are going on a tour around Joburg, around 2 hours. So we are hoping to have an amazing time. Let me show you around. Joburg sightseeing, one of the things that you need to do when you come to Joburg. On the red bus, they give you a pamphlet that has all the details of where you're going, which place is coming first, which one is next. And also when you board the red bus, they have like earphones. They give you free earphones where you plug in and get to listen to the voice over, where there's somebody explaining to you everywhere that you go, where you are at, and the history of that place, which I found to be really so good. These are the grounds for the Super Kings cricket team where they play their cricket. Melrose Arc is a square in Sandton City, and it's almost similar to the Nelson Mandela Square. And this one is kind of high end, and it has quite a number of amenities seated together. So it's such a good place to explore. It's peaceful, it's quiet, and it's safe. This is the house where Nelson Mandela lived before he died. Currently, it serves as a hotel or an inn that is open to the public, and it's right at the middle of the Horton Estate in Joburg. To see quite a number of international schools like St. John College, Rodian School, among others, that were very big and well maintained, grass well manicured, and the buildings looking their best. Park Station is a railway station located between CBD and Braamfontein. It is the largest railway station in Africa, one of the places that we were asked to visit on a train.
We are at Reef City. It's such an amazing amusement park, and it's a must-come place for everybody. Show them around.
Reef City acquired its name from what used to happen in the 70s, where gold mine used to take place, where the amusement park is located. So it's built in a way to mimic what used to happen in the 70s. And underground, they have a gold mine tour where they showcase various kinds of golds. And I understand it's one of the authentic places where they have such tours. bridge is one of the hanging bridges in Joburg that cross the railway line near the Joburg Park station. I couldn't help enjoying South African music that was playing through my earphones, as we were waiting to go to the next destination. Constitution Hill is a museum that showcases what South Africans went through during the periods of turbulence during apartheid. Right now, it serves as a court that is usually open even when people are visiting. And some of the people who are housed here are Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, and I understand there were two cells for Africans, number 4 and number 5, where number 4 used to house short-term prisoners, number 5 used to house long-term prisoners. South African Military Museum was opened in 1947 to preserve the involvement of South Africa in the Second World War. In this place, they showcase a lot of things like aircrafts, war machine, uniform that was used from year to year. And it's such a huge place. I think they have more than 4 halls or 5 halls, and they allow people to take pictures and videos outside, but upon entering inside they don't allow videos and photos because they would like to preserve the history of the place. If you would like to see how it looks like inside, go to their website. You'll be able to see, or rather visit the place, because there's just so much to see. And what I'd say is, when we went there, we spent around less than 30 minutes, and there was just so much to see. The best way is to be there for about 3 hours, and I mean 3 hours, because there's a lot to see, there's a lot to read, there's a lot to internalize. South African street art is something that you will hardly not notice because it's so outstanding, well done, very classic. And there's usually a tour just to go see the South African street art in Joburg and also in Soweto. And South Africa desires to be like the leading street art country in the whole world. And I must say they're quite somewhere, and I love their street art. We're leaving tomorrow. Yeah, so today we didn't have so much to do. It was just about booking tickets for tomorrow and then resting a bit as we plan to leave this place. I'm starting to feel emotional because I've loved this place, I've loved South Africa, but we were joking with Joy and we were saying that we have the whole world to conquer, we have other continents to go and see, so there's a consolation to it. Yeah, currently we are at a chicken place where we are waiting for our food to come because we are hungry, and then after that we'll be going to the hotel where we are sleeping. Everything that has a beginning has an end, and finally it was time for us to go back home to Kenya, and we were bidded farewell by very heavy rainfall that poured for around 3 hours or so. So we boarded our plane from Oliver Tambo Airport. We are exiting South Africa, going back to our country, Kenya.
We are going back home.
One of the interesting bits about the plane that we booked was that it was going through Malawi, that is Blantyre, Lilongwe, and then Nairobi. And it was just giving us a chance to just bid Malawi goodbye. And it was such a good feeling, especially just landing to Blantyre, because we didn't get to go to Blantyre. So just seeing how the airport looked like, it was such a good experience. I remember the side we were seated in the plane was a 3-seater, so we were seated, Joy and I, and then there was another guy, and we were talking with Joy about the journey, and we were talking about Mozambique. And apparently this guy who was seated next to us was a Mozambican, and he overheard us talking about Mozambique, and he joined in the conversation. He was so interested about Mozambique. And I remember when immediately when we heard he was from Mozambique, all our eyes were just widely open, because we were like, how can you be a Mozambican? Because of the experience that we had heard. So we narrated to him everything that we experienced, and he was like, he confirmed that indeed that's how the officers treat people there, even including citizens of the country. So Mozambique is quite something else, and I would love to hear if there's anybody who has ever had a very good experience while in Mozambique. Let's talk about South Africa. I was so elated, grateful, and humbled that I was able to go to South Africa. It wasn't my first time going to South Africa, but my second time. So the main reason as to why I was very elated and excited this time is because the first time I was there, we went for work and I was not able to explore South Africa, and specifically we were in Joburg, so I wasn't able to explore the city. And for me, it didn't qualify me to say that I've been there. So for me, in a way, to say that I have been to a place, I need to connect to the heart of that city. So I was like, I need to do justice to Joburg, and I kept telling God, you know what, just take me back to South Africa. I need to explore. I need to connect with Joburg. I have unfinished business. So around 2022, late 2022, I remember my brother asked me to just go to his place and like hold fort for him, because they were traveling with their family. So I was like taking care of their home, and so I was alone in their house. And all of a sudden at night, I just started thinking about South Africa, and I started thinking about the South African national anthem, because I love their national anthem so much. Okay, I'm loyal to Kenya, but I think aside from Kenya, South African national anthem is my favorite, absolutely. So when I started thinking about it, I started singing, and basically I tried to learn how to sing the anthem. And surprisingly, within a period of 30 minutes, I was able to grasp the words of the anthem, because I really love it. I just love it. It just has a special place in my heart, and it massages my heart so well. So, and it has like 13 different local languages, but I was able to learn in a period of 30 minutes. So I was singing so loudly in the house, only because I knew I was alone. So I was like, and then at the end of it, I was like, God, let me not just learn the South African national anthem, but just take me there, because I have unfinished business. I wanna go back there. And I said in my heart, I have not learned this anthem in vain. I am going back. And I even started praying at that moment, and I was declaring, I'm going to South Africa, I'm going to South Africa. So for me, it was such a special journey to even be able to go to South Africa. So upon entry to South Africa, in movies, there's certain places we get to see, but there are other places that we don't see about South Africa, especially the outskirts of it, where there are mountains. I didn't know there are mountains in South Africa, and there are these beautiful ranches. For me, I had not seen that even in the movies. So it was so interesting to get to see that bit, because like I keep saying, I am a hiker. So just seeing those mountains, I even started thinking of how, next time when I go to South Africa, I want to I want to hike the mountains, and I'm not talking about that side of Cape Town, but this side where from the border Zimbabwe to going to the urban part of South Africa. I didn't know that it had mountains, especially around Joburg. In Cape Town I know, but in Joburg I didn't know that it had mountains. So it was so beautiful to get to see that. So the first thing that we were alerted when we got to South Africa was about the security. We were alerted about security even just a few minutes before we alighted the bus, the Matua's bus, and they were so concerned to know, did we know where we were going, where we were sleeping, how we would go from the drop-off point to where we were going to sleep. They were even willing to host us before we get to figure out, where we were going because of the security situation in Joburg. So we told them we had a place where we were going to stay, but in as much as we told them we had a place, they asked us how we were going. So we weren't sure how we would go because we were planning to hop on a taxi. Actually, I had already started requesting for an Uber to take us to where we were going to stay, but they instead they recommended somebody they knew so well who would take us from where we were dropped off to now where we were going to stay, and we really appreciated that, and we went with a person. But even aside from that, we were warned of two places, one called Yeovil and another one called Alexandria. So those are the two places we were told to just ensure that we don't go there because insecurity is really bad. And what we were being told is insecurity is caused not mostly by the South Africans, but the people who cross over, or the illegal immigrants from the countries surrounding like Zimbabwe, Mozambique, that they were the ones who were causing the insecurity. And this was something that we kept being alerted. Even in the hotel where we were staying, we were alerted about security. We take care. So in short, what am I trying to say? In Kenya, in Nairobi, you're always aware that you need to be alert. But when you go to Joburg, you need to be alert 5 times of Nairobi, how you alert in Nairobi, because anytime anything can happen. So but that did not really scare us, but we really appreciated the alert that we were receiving. And I remember because the alert was really everywhere that we went, the supermarket, whenever we boarded the Ubers, everywhere that we went, we were being cautioned of insecurity. So I remember God just put in my heart to just be at peace, to be cautious in your mind, that you need to be you need to watch out and ensure that you're cautious in everything that you do. But I also remember God telling me we've not been given a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love, power, and self-control. So for us, that is what we carried in our hearts. Because we used to have morning devotion each and every morning, and every morning God would just deposit a word in our hearts, and that is one of the words that God deposited in our hearts, and it gave us peace that yes, go out there, have fun, but be on the watch out. And I remember there's a strategy that God gave me just around security, which is what we use going around the Joburg town, everywhere that you went. That's the plan that we used. So in terms of transport, how did we maneuver? One, we used Uber. There is Uber in South Africa, and then there are also taxis. We also use taxis. When I say taxis, in Kenya we refer them as matatus. So we use matatus, taxi, and then now we used Uber. We came to deciding whether we would use an Uber or a taxi or matatu. So this is how we used to work. I knew where we were going, or rather I knew the places that we needed to visit, and then my friend Joy, knew how to take us there. So she would search and Google and see whether we needed to take an Uber or we needed to take a matatu depending on the distance. So it was such a perfect combination, and we just blended so well. Everybody knew the part that they were playing. So now, there's an interesting thing that I learned about the Uber that I didn't know. There's this last day where we were going from Randburg, now going back to where we were staying. The Uber that we boarded, he was a bit hesitant to carry us because apparently my Uber rating was 4.0. So for me, I was not even bothered because even when we got into the vehicle, he started this conversation of, I sat in front and then my friend Joyce sat behind, and he started this conversation where he asked, where are you going? And he asked, how do you normally use Uber? And I wondered why was he asking all these questions. So he asked me, why is your Uber rating 4.0? And I think for a minute I was like, okay, I've never even thought about it. I didn't even know it was 4.0. And I asked him, what is the overall rating? He said 5.0. And I told him, I'm doing good. I'm 4.0. I'm doing good. If it's 5, I've just missed one and I'm doing good. What's the problem? So he was like, no, that rating is not good. And I asked him, okay, what's the best rating? And I think he said something to do with 4.5. And I'm like, okay, but why does it matter? What's a big deal about the rating? So he started telling us how 4.0 means either you're this kind of a person who is problematic when you get into the Uber, or maybe it's not secure to carry you, or you've ever had an incident here or there. Then I was like, I've never even had to think about my rating with Uber or so for me I was so amused. But this guy was very serious actually. He was kind of interrogating me, not in an intrusive manner, but he was really concerned, like he was looking out for his own security. So when I saw that this guy was too serious, I engaged him to want to know more about the rating and everything. So we realized that, he told us that in South Africa, ratings are very key things, that a rating of 4.0 is very low, and it means that it's not safe to carry you. And actually he told us, it's just that he's I don't know whether he noticed that I had taken other rides or what, but he was a bit hesitant to agree to carry me. So that's why he was telling us that most of the Uber drivers, they don't carry people with a rating of 4.0. It's not, if it's not 4.5 and above, so let's just say it's a God thing that he carried us at that point. And I remember Joy confirming that by saying that there was a certain person that she knew in Kenya who had a rating of 3.0, and with a rating of 3.0, eventually they were barred by the Uber management from being ferried going anywhere, because then that's a very high risk client. So imagine your Uber rating matters. Like if it's 4.0, you are at risk. I didn't know that I needed to know my rating until I got to South Africa, because now I got concerned. You see, if you're in a foreign country and that's one of the means of transport that you gotta use, then you will be concerned. So for me, I was concerned. But if it's in Kenya, it would be different. I've never even had anybody in Kenya have this discussion of, that your rating is this much, your rating is this much. And then another thing we got to learn is that also your rating can be low because either you're not like wearing your seat belt, or you're eating in the car, or you're being just unruly in the vehicle. So I was like, ooh, okay, I didn't know that it's a must for me to wear the seatbelt. Yes, I know for my own security I need to wear the seatbelt, but I didn't know it's a management requirement, or rather it's used to rate me by the management. So it's something that something new that I got to learn. And then talking about the taxis or the matatus, there are so many taxi rings, because the matatus, every matatu, depending on the route, there's a taxi ring. A taxi ring is a very huge, they have this huge building where they have quite a number of rows, where depending on where the taxi is going, there are numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10. So vehicles that go to a particular place, maybe they are on row 1, another one on row 2, 3, or whatever where you're going. So it's not really easy to figure out if you're going to this place, this is where you're supposed to board from. So either way, you have to ask. And I think this is even where God gave me the strategy that we used, which worked very well in getting to know like which taxis to use going to wherever, because I find it very good to experience all the means of transport available in that country, whether it's a camel, whether it's a donkey or a plane or cars, whichever. I just like boarding anything and everything just to get that experience. So we also use the taxi rings, and they are not easy to figure out. So you just have to ask, but you have to be very cautious who you're asking about, the taxis. One of the things that we noticed about the Matatu's town service is that the driver was the only person who was like operating that vehicle. Like he didn't have an assistant. In Kenya we call them conductors, or just those people who work together hand in hand with the driver. The driver is driving, then there's also somebody else who is collecting now transport from each and every person. So in South Africa, there's no this assistant to the driver. So now what happens, since people are seated in rows, so the one who is at the farthest corner, whichever side, you pass your cash to the next person, and then that person passes to the next person, or rather all of you in one row, you give your money to one person, and then this row that you're at, you pass that money to the front row that is in front of you. Then the row that is in front of you, they pass their money and your money to the other row that is in front of them, that way until it gets to the driver. So now the tricky bit is you need to know how much you're being charged from point A to B, and it's like people normally know the fares around the fares around wherever it is that they're going. So as a foreigner, you have no idea, so you just have to ask, like from point A to B, how much do they charge, so that you know if you give a certain note whether you're expecting to be given change or not. So that's one of the interesting bits I found about matatus in South Africa. Then when it comes to places to visit, we visited a number of places like Mandela Square, Mandela House, Constitution Hill, and a number of places. So one thing I can say, if you're a tourist and you don't have a lot of time, the best way to visit, I'm talking about Joburg, the best way to visit Joburg is through the red bus, the red sightseeing bus. And the best way to do it is you plan your journey where you start sightseeing early in the morning, because how the red bus works is there are quite a number of places where you're gonna see, let's say like 10 places. So if you go to place 1, the bus stops for around 10 minutes. If you wanna go off, you can go off and see whatever it is that is there. If by 10 minutes you won't be done, meaning you won't have come back to the bus, that bus will leave you. And then there's another bus, because there are normally so many buses, there's another red bus which will come. And once it comes and maybe you're done, you hop on that bus. So that's how they normally work. So the best way is to ensure that you start in the morning, because if you start like in the afternoon, you will be compelled to stay in that bus, and you will be compelled not to go out and see the places that you need to see. So that's the easiest and the fastest way to get to visit Joburg, because they do a number of visits. Usually like they visit 10 places. They also go to Soweto. So they even have a way of connecting you from this big red bus to a smaller van where you go and see Soweto. So the best way is to use the Joburg sightseeing bus in Joburg, where you book for it at a place called Rosebank, and they're very, very organized. They even give you a schedule of the bus timings. They give you a poster that shows where you're going, the places where you're going, which one is starting, which one is number 1, which one is number 2. So they give you all the information. And then this red bus, I loved it because as you tour around in the bus, you put on your earphones, and then there's someone explaining to you where you are at. Your work is to see and to listen. So as you go seeing, they're explaining what is it that you're seeing. So I found that to be very, very beautiful. The bus goes very slowly, and the interesting bit is, I remember the first time I was in Joburg, I saw that bus from a distance, and I actually took a picture of myself, the bus on the background, and I remember asking myself, where does this bus go? And I was like, gosh, I'd love to board this bus. So today I can say that God granted me the desire of my heart just to board on that bus, because it was so much fun and it took us around. I just felt so good. I just thank God. And then when it comes to currency, they use the South African rand. So something that was different for us throughout the journey, South Africa, the currency is a bit higher than Kenya. So things for us were a bit costly as opposed to all the other countries that we went to. When it comes to accommodation, accommodation is also a bit pricey. We stayed at a certain hotel, and I talked about it previously, in Orange Grove. It was good, but I think one of the things that we didn't like is they weren't changing like the sheets every day, even after us telling them. So we didn't like that. But the place itself was good. It's secure. When you're looking for a place to stay, you have to ensure that you're staying in a very secure place, because like I talked about, security is not really good. So you just can't stay anywhere. You have to be sure that where you're staying, there's very good security. Even in terms of the accommodation itself, there's something that we experience, though not that much. The one common thing is that there's low shedding in South Africa. So you find from time to time either there's not enough, maybe power goes out, or power goes out. And then when it comes to food, we struggled because it's junk. I think even Malawi was better. When it comes to food, for me, I rate South Africa the least of the least, because junk is left, right, center, everywhere. And you just gotta eat because you don't have an option. And I didn't have an option, or rather we didn't have an option. So for us, we really struggled, and we would buy food from the supermarket or the hotel. So at least junk food, you can find it easily and in so many supermarkets around, or even the hotel. However, South Africa has very yummy fruits, and that is one of the things that we really banked on, because now we couldn't find like a healthy food. So we decided to go fruits. Go fruits. There's the very big apples, mangoes, plums. They're so big on food. So for me that's one of the things that I loved about South Africa, and I rate it number one, because in terms of fruits, just really good. And then Tanzania second. So we didn't struggle in terms of fruits. At least that one was a reliever for us. In terms of staying connected with our family and friends, we bought SIM cards, which we were using to stay connected in terms of Wi-Fi and internet, and also being able to communicate within South Africa whenever we needed to make any inquiries within South Africa. That's what we were using. When it comes to nightlife, what can I say about nightlife? I think we didn't have a nightlife really, or rather there are no places where we went at night, mostly because of security. But maybe there are times we came back a bit late, but we were not like out late per se, like we didn't go out at night, but it's just that those places that we had gone to visit, and we were coming back maybe a bit late, maybe around 7, because you find even the supermarkets close as early as 7, like 7 sharp, because of insecurity. So we were like, okay, fine, if the supermarkets close at 7, most likely even the hotels close at 7 or something like that. So we didn't quite have a nightlife out there, but we created our own nightlife in the hotel where we were staying. I found South Africa to be very beautiful. The buildings, the road, no dust, no mud. It's it was so good, and I enjoyed that bit of South Africa. The modernization of all of it, it was really, really good. I loved that bit. The roads are well done, both the main roads and the outskirts. Because I remember places like Malawi, the main roads were not so good, and even when it comes to the outskirts, there are no tarmac roads in the outskirts. Even in Tanzania, the main road is very, very good, but the outskirts, they don't have tarmac roads. So South Africa was like really good in terms of transport. Some of the things that I learned about South Africa were the largest hospital. They have the largest hospital in Africa, which is called Chris Hani Hospital. And this Chris Hani Hospital, can you imagine, it has like 3,400 beds. And I remember I was being told that it has about 7,000 staff. So they have the biggest hospital. And another thing I also learned is that they provide child support to those parents who are like low income earners, those people who are not able to fend for their children. They provide child support, and I was like, wow, that's a really good thing. And also even the education is free. For me, I didn't know that. Education is free and housing is free for citizens. It's really free. I didn't know that. And another thing was that I met this person in the plane from South Africa going back to Nairobi, where he was telling me how for him he's just a resident, he's not a citizen, and he's from Kenya actually. And he was telling me how for him he stays in Pretoria and he has a business in Pretoria. And he told me one of the challenges that he was facing in his business is, you know, the way like in Kenya you find Mungike trying to control your business, or like you have to give them something or some money to ensure that your business is secured. So for him, he was experiencing that, and it's something that he had lived with and he's still living with, and he has to pay this amount of money for his business to be secured. So for me, I didn't know that bit about Pretoria. The Matua's bus that we used, like I said earlier, was very good and the management was good. And one of the breakthroughs that we experienced is that the day that we booked the journey from Malawi to South Africa, I remember when we went to book, the lady who was in charge told us that it was fully booked and we couldn't travel the following day. We had to travel like on a Sunday. So we traveled on a Thursday, but now she's saying we needed to travel on a Sunday. And I was like, no, we didn't have so many days, so we couldn't wait until Sunday. So now what happened, I told her she just has to look for a way of getting 2 seats for us. And I told her I just need 2 seats for us. And she told me, okay, follow me to the office. So when we went to the office, she asked us for our passports and she started booking for us. So I asked her, okay, fine. So we're going to get seats? She said yes. So she actually booked for us a bus now going the following day. And then it so happens that the bus, the seating arrangement is free seating. So for me, I've never experienced that. Like when a journey is long distance, it's never free seating. You always have a seat number. So for me, I was like, this is so tricky, what do I do? So I asked her if she could book for us seats in front, because we wanted to sit in front first and foremost, because when you're doing content creation, you have to ensure that where you're sitting, you're able to capture proper pictures and videos, at least. And we also wanted to sit in front because of flexibility in terms of stretching our legs and everything. So the following day when we went, because we were at the station by I think some minutes to 3 a.m. we found that they actually remembered to book for us, because the bus is so big. It's really big. I think it carries more than 60. It's really big. So they remembered to book for us seats. So we ended up sitting behind the conductor's chair. So we were behind them, and it was really good because the windows of the bus are not like the normal windows that we are used to. They're so small, and they're up there. So, and they were never being opened because in the bus we were using the AC. So for me, that's one of the breakthroughs that we experienced. And aside from that, they really took good care of us in terms of ensuring that even when we got to South Africa, that they organized for a vehicle to take us from the bus station up to where we were going, and they really cared for us. And I remember even when we were in the bus, they were very considerate, because most of the people were Malawians, so at some point they started like interpreting in English so that we would be able to also understand what it is that they were telling people whenever, like, for example, we're getting to another border, or we were having a stopover just to relieve ourselves. So we really appreciate it. I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed the journey from Kenya to South Africa. To get to know where we are going to next, stay tuned at Traveling with Jesus 01. Subscribe, share, keep it locked, and thank you so much for being here. God bless you.